Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rabbi Stephen Roshby with Friday's sermon for Shabbat Ma'ariv. That's May 15th, 2020. The Anthropomorphism of God. So this week marks the end of the book of Leviticus with the double portion of Bahar Bechukotai. The portion of Bechukotai contains the Tochacha, or warning in Hebrew. Here, God tells us that if we abide by the covenant and perform the commandments and follow in his ways, we will thrive and prosper and defeat our enemies. If we stray, there are three levels of warnings, each progressively worse than the previous one. These are dire consequences, and there is the understanding that our God is a jealous God and will visit his wrath on us for our failure to live up to our part of the covenant. Within this warning, however, is God's assurance that he will always be with us no matter what and will await for us to come back to his teachings. So in the book The Prophets, Rabbi Abraham Heschel, one of the prominent 20th century Jewish philosophers, who also, by the way, marched with Martin Luther King in the 60s, discusses the anthropomorphism of God. Different cultures have assigned their own images and values to their images of their respective divine being. The gods of the Vikings, for example, were tall and blonde. Ethiopian gods were dark with swarthy features, and the Thracian gods were red-haired and gray-eyed. Concomitant with these views were the character traits and personalities of these gods. The Greek and Roman gods were jealous and vengeful. Anyone who crossed them was doomed to an eternity of torture, like being turned into an animal or having your intestines attacked by angry birds. Even today, with any disaster like the current pandemic, some religious figures are quick to ascribe to his wrath for all sorts of offenses like homosexuality. So is God vengeful? We've seen times in the Torah when God does indeed call himself a jealous God. In discussions with Moses, he said he was angry with his people Israel and was going to destroy him. It was only Moses' intervention and pleading that changed God's mind to spare them. Reading this, one would imagine God to be a petty being like the rest of us who can succumb to petty emotions. How is it that King Solomon in Proverbs states, "Who is mighty, one who controls their emotions, and yet the one who created us, who oversees our existence, who is supposed to be merciful and loving and compassionate, throw a temper tantrum at the slightest provocation?" First of all, God doesn't. We see those traits in God because we are viewing him from our perception, human perception, and our human values. These are emotions and feelings that we have. We interpolate that since we were created in God's image. We are imbued with those divine emotions, but in human expression. Well, sort of, but not really. Remember that God is a perfect being. Like a big parent, he wants what's best for us. His disciplining is merely to set us on the right path and get us out of the way of hurting ourselves and each other. And that's whatever it takes. This is why the Tochacha comes in three progressive stages. When you were a young child, your parents told you not to eat the cookies. Cookies are delicious and yummy, and you couldn't or wouldn't help yourself. Your parents saw you, and they took the cookie away and said no. Right? They wanted you to have your appetite for dinner for the nutritious stuff. But you didn't listen because those cookies were indeed delicious, right? And our parents are a lot smarter and experienced than us, so they saw you try again. This time, a slap on the wrist accompanied with that no. Since we're all come from a stiff-necked stock, we tried again. We figured we had it down now and could get away with it, and we were wrong. Yet a third time did our parents catch us. This time, we were sent to our room until dinner, which, as I said, was why we couldn't have the cookie in the first place, that it would spoil our dinner. Our parents only wanted us to have the best nutrition so we could grow up healthy and strong. Such it is with Hashem, and why, by the way, the commandment to honor our parents is extant in the Torah. Our parents are doing, really, God's work. It's not about being jealous or vengeful or vindictive. It's about keeping on the straight and narrow. The point is that once we start to stray from our mitzvot, we are led down a dark path. Once we ignore God and his commandments, we start to break the commandments, like not helping the widow or orphan, harassing the stranger, not giving to charity, etc. This is how society starts to break down and become corrupt. At that point, people don't trust each other, commerce is affected, and people's livelihood and interaction suffer. By observing the commandments, society runs smoothly, Everyone thrives and we all grow.